Business owners, you need to get the word out. Are you looking for brand exposure, business expansion, looking for new clients, hiring remotely for staff positions, or hiring new employees to open additional offices? Are you looking to advertise new projects, start business partnerships, or seeking new business opportunities? Do you need to highlight new upgrades, features, or products? Promote up-and-coming events, seminars, classes, or celebrate business anniversaries and achievements with the world? Now's the time to get your commercial featured on my show. Send me an email for package pricing, and let's grow and expand your business together.
How my journey began. It's graduation time. Family is very important to me, including my puppies. The Marine Corps played a huge role in my life and allowed me to be ambitious, inspiring, a mentor, and achieve all of my goals. As a financial expert, I've received multiple awards, done various events as a guest speaker all over the U.S. with my platform of creating healthy financial habits, along with having my own business, all leading up to my show. Come along for the journey.
Hello, Gems, and welcome. For the month of May, I wanted to continue doing something special to celebrate all the ways a female is considered a mother, whether it be to her own children, a mother to other people's children, both family and friends, or being a motherly mentor, just to name a few. Not all women want to be a mother in the traditional way of pregnancy, and we're going to explore some of those possibilities during this month. Here are some statistics on adoption. An independent adoption can cost anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000, according to the Child Welfare Information Gateway of Federal Service. These fees typically cover a birth mother's medical expenses, legal representation for the adoption and birth parents, court fees, and social workers, plus many, many other things. Adoption is expensive because the process to legally adopt a baby requires the involvement of attorneys, social workers, physicians, government administrators, adoption specialists, counselors, and many, many, many other individuals who are involved in the process. Foster care adoption is the least inexpensive way to adopt and to go through the adoption process, with the average being costing roughly around $2,700. You work with your state's foster care system, and if you foster a child that may eventually be up for adoption, you'll be first on the list. Also, adopting an older child is easier and inexpensive than adopting younger children. The top 5 easiest countries to adopt from are number 1, China, number 2, India, number 3, the United States, number 4, Indonesia, and rounding out the top 5 is Pakistan. Now, for today's guest, his favorite TV mother is Claire Huxtable from The Cosby Show. His favorite lesbian character is Melanie on Queer as Folk. Many years ago, he wanted to adopt South African twins with a partner. He would be a sperm donor if asked by a friend. And one thing he enjoys most about children is their happy outlook on the world. Now, Gems, let's give a fierce, fun facts welcome to my favorite uncle. There you go. And your new favorite uncle, Scott, to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. We have a wonderful show today for our Gems. So let's dive in deep. We got a lot to cover. Okay. So we're going to go topic by topic. Our first topic is women who have children of their own or not any at all who adopted. So number 1 we're going to discuss is Madonna. I'm going to give you guys my Gems, a little background on Madonna before we go ahead and discuss her. So Madonna's Confession Tour in 2006 took her to a trip in Malawi as part of a charity mission. And it was here that she met her future adopted son, David, who she met at the Home of Hope, an orphanage in Malawi when he was just 1 year old. Now, Madonna was so moved by what she saw, She filed for adoption of the little boy. Around the same time, it was rumored that her marriage was on the rocks. Her marriage to Guy Ritchie, if you guys keep up with pop culture. She originally tried to adopt a little girl named Mercy, whose mother had died during childbirth, but the girl's grandmother refused. The adoption proceedings were long and complicated because it's currently illegal to adopt in Malawi. Her adoption was a controversial one because David's father was still alive but unable to look after him. Even the queen of adoption overseas, Miss Angelina Jolie, voiced her concerns at the time of Madonna's decision to adopt, stating, "Personally, I prefer to stay on the right side of the law. I would never take a child away from a place where adoption is illegal," Angelina Jolie said. Madonna and Guy Ritchie brought David home in 2006, but wasn't until Christmas of 2007 that the adoption was approved by the Malawian government. Many felt that Madonna was given preferential treatment and sidestepped the adoption laws because of her star status. In 2009, Madonna decided to adopt yet again, and the complications were just as major in Malawi. Madonna set her heart on adopting the Malawian orphan girl, Mercy James, who she couldn't adopt before. Her first bid was rejected because she wasn't a Malawian resident and Mercy's dad wouldn't allow it. However, after an appeal and much speculation that Madonna was given the green light because of her $12 million donation to Malawian orphanages, Madonna was given the green light from the Malawian courts to officially adopt Mercy in June 2009. In February 2017, Madonna officially announced that she had adopted 4-year-old twins, Esther and Estelle. Excuse me if I did say their names incorrectly, from Malawi. The birthplace of her adoption of both children, David and Mercy. So her family and her adopted children are all Malawian. Madonna is also the birth mother to daughter Lourdes and son Rocco. So our question today is that we're going to discuss, both me and my favorite uncle and the Jims. Hopefully you'll be able to discuss these similar questions among yourself. Is, do you think Madonna was given star treatment in her adoption process? What do you think?
Of course, she was given star treatment.
Yes.
I mean, on the one hand, I want to say that it isn't any different than if stars use their celebrity to get to the head of a line in adoption laws. But on the other hand, she overstepped the laws of the country.
Boom.
That's stepping over the line.
I 100 agree with that. I mean, with any type of star celebrity, treatment, you get certain benefits. But when you sidestep the laws of a country, a full-blown country, whom, if it was me or you and we wanted to adopt in that country, we couldn't because it's illegal, then that's definitely given preferential treatment and definitely allowed her to adopt not one, but 4 children from the same government. Do you think she should have been allowed to adopt in a country where adoption is illegal?
I don't. I don't think that she should have been allowed to adopt in a country where it's illegal. I think that was wrong. I mean, great that she has her children. I'm glad that she has her children. But it says something that she used her money to be able to illegally adopt her children.
Absolutely. Illegally. And I want my Jims to, I just want to keep saying that word, it was illegal. And it's one thing, again, to want to adopt, which is in itself a wonderful blessing and a thing to do if you have the time, the money, the patience to go through all that. But to pick a country that shouldn't have been on your list of adoption because it's illegal, it's no different than, as me and you always discuss, places to vacation. If they say, hey, this place right now, not the best place for you to vacation in, and you go and something happens, you didn't take heed to that country's laws. You did it on your own. So in the circumstance of this adoption, her just saying, okay, no, I want that child and I'm going to get it, sidestepping it, I think for the average person kind of makes us feel so inferior because there's beautiful children around the world and we're being told no and you're being told yes simply because of the money. And there's one other thing that I wanted to bring up. and I know me and you have talked about before, is in this case of at least two of the children, the living family members told her no.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I actually have a problem with that. There were living family members that said no, and yet the adoption still took place. They could have raised those children themselves over that. The money that she donated could have been used to be, some of that money could have been given to the family to help them raise the child themselves.
Yes, yes. And I mean, you have talked about this and I agree. That is one thing to see a child in need, but sometimes when there isn't any hurt, harm, or abuse doing to your child, it's strictly financial. And if you are financially able and capable to provide financially for that family, I don't see why, again, maybe we don't know that part of the story, but why maybe giving a financial aid to the family to better care for their family wasn't an option, so Jim, that don't sit well with me at all. I don't like it. Yes, so we're going to move on to another one, speaking on again adoption, Charlize Theron. So definitely another controversial one. So in for Charlize Theron, she has August and Jackson, both born a boy, and are now she considers them daughters. The gender identification change for her son Jackson, who now identifies as a girl, is controversial in some circles, claiming that her son was too young at age 3 to make such a dramatic decision. Charlize has come under fire from the Black community for what is considered emasculating her son and gender brainwashing. She firmly stands by her child to now identify as a girl. She cast a wide net when choosing to adopt. In fact, she filed for adoption in every single country where she was allowed to legally adopt as a single parent. She decided to adopt, believing her children would find her. They both happen to be in the US and African American. Everything she hoped would happen during her adoption process happened, and she has her babies now. Ms. Theron believes that the concept of what a family looks like and what constitutes the right, quote unquote, family or strong, quote unquote, family, or what we think it should look like is definitely something that we still need to work on as a society. In a lot of places, we think a lot of people, especially in America, it feels very traditional in the sense that it should still be every child should have a mother and a father. We've kind of wrapped our heads slowly around the idea of two mothers and two fathers, but not so much around the idea of becoming a single parent on your own, choosing to be. It's just so unfortunate, she goes on to say. I know so many people who would be incredible parents. So our question surrounding this one is, how young is too young to change your gender identity? What are your thoughts on that?
I originally had the opinion that 3 wasn't too young, but then I had the occasion to be around a 3-year-old child recently, and they're barely able to put a sentence together. They're barely getting their footing in the world, and I felt like I don't know, because I've read accounts from transgender people who say they knew at a very, very early age that they didn't feel comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
And I felt like I really didn't know how young was too young, because on the one hand, you don't want to force your child into a space that they don't want to be in. And we don't know what conversations and what things Charlize saw with her son, who is now a daughter, that made her feel that this is the choice that she wanted to make, and that this is where she wanted to go with her daughter. If my 3-year-old wanted to wear a dress, I'd probably let them wear a dress. Would I go as far as saying I'm going to raise my son as a daughter at 3? I don't know. That feels a little young. I think that's a conversation I'd want to revisit later before going that far.
Absolutely. And, my thoughts on the process is, clothing is one thing. Don't really care, if your son wants to wear a dress, no different than if your daughter wants to wear nothing but trousers and pants. and typical quote unquote boy type of clothing. But when it comes to, like you said, the gender at the age, and I want to make this very clear to all of my gyms, we're not saying there's anything wrong with changing your gender identification. What we're discussing is the age. How young should that come? Because I want to point out the development stages. Your brain at age 3 is not even fully developed as a full adult brain. That doesn't come actually till many, many years later. And so to have this as a 3-year-old, I think there's nothing wrong to have that thought, but then to have further discussions while you are growing and becoming into the person who you are going to be. You and I know we've talked about having these gender roles. You know, there are some children that may have more masculine energy or more feminine energy. That's completely different than changing your gender identification. So you have a lot of these things going on at such a young age. You know, we call them being a tomboy for a female who has maybe more masculine energy. She's never said she wanted to be a boy, and maybe will grow up and still be, still be feminine. And then for a guy, when we say, maybe he's a little too quiet, he's a little more feminine energy. And that's neither here to say, again, you may grow up and still be identified as a man. What we're saying is the actual saying, I want to now be seen as a girl when I'm at 3 years old. So we just want to keep those thoughts in mind. Another one is, do you think parents have a role in how they raise the gender of a child? So again, all that American, you have a boy, he has blue or green. You have a girl, she has pink or she has purple. You little girls wear this, little boys wear that. I take my son to baseball games with me. These are traditional thoughts. We're not saying you can't take a female, but that traditional way. So what are your thoughts on that as a parent and how that can shift the gender identification of a child?
I think we definitely have a role in the gender of our child and how we raise them. I think that comes from birth, actually. That, if we raise them gender neutral, they're going to fall into one or the other depending on what they're exposed to.
Absolutely.
If we raise a boy as we're going to do all of these traditionally boy things, that's what they're going to fall into. If they're not comfortable with that, then they're going to fall into something else.
Go ahead.
I also think that there can be a place where sometimes we force people into certain roles, and that can be uncomfortable. And that may be where Charlize is coming from, that she doesn't want to do that. But it also raises the question of what happens if her child turns 7 and doesn't want to be in this daughter role anymore? Will he feel that he can't tell her?
Right. And there's also many other things, and this could be a topic on its own. We just wanted to touch bases on it just a little bit. There's so much going on. I mean, at age 3, you haven't even hit puberty yet. I mean, your girl, for women, our breasts haven't developed. We haven't got menstrual cycles. For men, your testes haven't dropped yet. You haven't had a wet dream yet. None of that has happened yet. And that's not to say that it has to happen. And then this a gender identification has to happen. I'm just simply going when it comes to developing as the gender you were born in, because who knows, you may get to age 7 and say, you know what, like you said, I kind of like being a boy. I kind of like it. It's okay. Or you can still say, nope, don't like it at all. But your body hasn't got to that phase in life yet where it's fully saying, okay, here we are as either a female or a male. And one last thing I want to talk about with the whole Charlize Theron, she brought up a really good question on choosing to be a single parent. So why do you think choosing to be a single parent is frowned upon so much in society?
I think because we still live in a society that goes by traditional values of having 2 parents in the home and assuming that that is the best way to be, although it isn't always that way.
Right.
Oftentimes we see 2-parent homes, but only one parent is spending significant amount of time with the child. We have a lot of what I like to call glory parents, where there's the parent who does all the heavy lifting with the child, and then the parent who comes home for the glory moments.
Yep.
And then they're gone.
Absolutely, that glory parent, we've seen it all too much. They're just there for the accomplishments, the high fives, and all the high moments, but they're not there presence is not there emotionally and physically for all the moments of the child. So you may see a two-parent household who is literally kind of sort of like one. And you're right. I feel the same way, that it's still frowned upon here in society because we still have this stigma. It needs to be two parents. It has to be a male and a female. Like you said, we're kind of wrapping our head around two female mothers, two mothers or two fathers. But that single is just like, we're still frowned upon. So again, Jim, just giving you some nuggets and some gems to ponder on. We're going to keep the discussion moving. Our next category that we're going to talk about is women who are not married and do not want children or don't have any biological children of their own. So the first woman that we definitely love to discuss, and we all love her, is Miss Betty White. She never had biological children of her own, but she was a loving stepmother to her husband, Alan Ludden's 3 kids from his first marriage. Betty White believes she has the legendary career she has today because of her choice not to have children. She felt she wouldn't have been able to balance both at the time, a child and a career. She was compulsive with her career, as she describes it, and she never regretted the choice. Being a stepmother didn't interfere with her career in the way a pregnancy and an infant would have. She enjoyed being a stepmother to the utmost. So our question for this category is, do you think society chooses for a woman to either have a career or become a mother, the whole entire workforce? Again, Betty White we're talking about many, many, many decades in the industry. And even in some industries now where having a pregnancy is still frowned upon. What are your thoughts on that, on women having to still choose between the two?
I think it absolutely still happens. I think it's wrong. It's women can have career and have children, but our society is still not to the place where they can treat women that way. There are still jobs where if a woman gets pregnant, she may miss out on a promotion, she may miss out on being treated equally while she's pregnant, or she may come back and find that she's not in the same place on the same track that she wanted to be with her career. And there is oftentimes this idea that women have to choose between having their career and having their children.
Absolutely, because as you stated, deciding to have a pregnancy or even becoming pregnant and even just taking that time, a little bit of maternity leave away, you're right, they keep going. And when you come back, it's like, you're here, but we kind of replaced you, kind of, sort of, but not really. And you're right, they have your career may not be on the same track as it was because everyone kind of pushed you off to the side and kind of put you on pause, and they kept going rather than keeping you a part of the process and keeping you on the track. So yeah, we definitely feel the same way about that. Another one, beautiful, beautiful actress that I want to discuss is Marissa Tomei. The beautiful 55-year-old actress has been keeping busy, and she doesn't feel the need to have kids or get married. Miss Tomei reportedly told Manhattan Magazine via Glamour UK in 2009 that she's not that big a fan of marriage as an institution, and she doesn't know why women need to have children to be seen as a complete human being. She doesn't like the notion that it's a woman's duty to have children, or that a woman needs to have a child, have to have children to be a complete person. So for that, I like to say, why at 55 are these women still being asked, why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Because men are never asked this question. And what are your thoughts on this?
No, go ahead, finish what you were saying.
No, I was going to say, she's made it known, hey, this is not what I want in my life. There's nothing wrong with you. Why do we continue to ask her, why don't you have kids? Why don't you want to be a mother? Yeah.
Part of it is because our society is sexist. They still place value on women as only having a value if they're going to get married and have children. Yes. When the truth is, women are valuable whether they have children or whether they don't have children.
Yes.
Their life is more than just continuing the species.
Yes. And it's still, that just probably one of the things that just angers me, that she said this and she's happy in her own skin and happy with who she is, but yet society is just like, they don't view her in the same lens they view a woman who is married and children, and even a woman who is not married but has children. They still tend to put these women in that category. But kudos to Miss Marissa Tomei for still living her best life ever and continuing to live in her best life. Now, our final category that we're going to talk about is lesbian women who use sperm donors for children. So our first wonderful, wonderful woman that we're going to talk about is Miss Melissa Etheridge. Miss Etheridge has been an out lesbian for almost the entire stretch of her career. She had no desire to be closeted to the public. It just didn't feel right to her. Miss Etheridge publicly came out in early 1993 at one of Bill Clinton's presidential inauguration balls in Washington, D.C. She turned down Brad Pitt to be a sperm donor in favor of David Crosby. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, who would turn down Brad Pitt? But she had a very good reason. Why she turned down Brad Pitt? Well, he's smart, he's talented, successful, and awfully easy on the eyes, which is hard to imagine why she would turn him down. But she turned him down because Brad Pitt had a desire for a family that ultimately made the decision why her and her partner against it. She looked and saw how badly he wanted children of his own and thought, I don't want to share this with someone who really badly wants children because my children don't need another parent. They already have two. Now, at the time of this, he wasn't with Miss Angelina Jolie, or they didn't have any children at the time. So this is age in the article. It's one of the reasons why she chose David Crosby and his wife, because they were so perfect. They already had children, and they looked at this, him becoming a sperm donor, as a gift. Crosby helped Etheridge and Julie Cypher, who split unfortunately in 2000, conceive Beckett, their son, and their daughter Bailey, who is now 23, via sperm donation and artificial insemination. Julie Cypher gave birth to their son Beckett in 1998 and gave birth to their daughter in 1997. Got that back. So what are your thoughts on using a personal friend as a sperm donor?
I love the idea as long as everything is very clearly put in writing. All the legal terms are clear about who's raising this child, about what responsibility the sperm donor does or does not have,
Right.
and what role they're going to serve or not serve in the child's life. Everything needs to be very clear.
Absolutely. And you know, James, you know how I am. All he said was there needs to be a contract. There needs to be agreed upon contract on the role your sperm donor, if you decide to go with someone you know has in their life. But other than that, kudos to the people who think their friend has great sperm and would be a great donor genetically, physically for them. Our final woman that we're going to talk about is Miss Sarah Gilbert. Love her to pieces. In 2001, Miss Gilbert began a relationship with television producer Ali Adler. They have two children together, a son, Levi Hank, born to Adler in October 2004, and a daughter, Sawyer Jane, born to Gilbert in August 2007. So they both had the opportunity to carry a pregnancy. Gilbert remained private about her sexuality, choosing not to publicly discuss her personal life. In June 2010, as she prepared to launch her talk show, The Talk at the time, Gilbert confirmed that she was a lesbian. In August 2011, Gilbert announced that she and Adler had separated amicably. Following the breakup, Gilbert began a relationship with songwriter, music producer, and former Four Non-Blondes frontwoman, Linda Perry. The pair married on March 30th, 2014. Gilbert gave birth to their son, Rose Emilio Gilbert Perry, on February 28, 2015. She has not disclosed the father or the donor of her children or disclosed that she used a fertility bank. Now, question for this one is, do you think same-sex couples should have some type of opposite gender influence for their child? For example, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, finish your question.
So for example, if both parents are female, having a male mentor or an advisor, or if both parents are female, still having another type of influence for them. But yes.
Well, I don't think that it's essential. I think that it would be nice if that existed. I think it would be nice to have the balance. Mm-hmm. But I think that if that balance somehow isn't there, that the child will be fine either way, as long as there's enough love, as long as there's enough information, and as long as there's enough sensitivity to any issues that come up.
Absolutely, I can agree with that. Like you said, one of the key points that I like that you said is if the opportunity was there. We're not saying you have to go out and find a male to be a mentor to your child if you are two mothers raising a child, or if you're two fathers raising a son, that you would have to run out and try to find a motherly figure for them. What I'm saying is just having a different point of view, because men and women give different points of views. You know, I always say when I talk to you, when I have, let's say if I were to have a daughter and I am a single parent, I just still want her to go to a quote unquote daddy daughter dance. And maybe they need to get better with that term instead of having it a daddy daughter dance, because I would want her to go with her favorite uncle. You're my favorite uncle. I would want her to go with you and, you know, spin her around and dance her. So these are the things that she doesn't miss out on just because of me being a single parent. So that's kind of, you know, we're on the same page when it comes to that. If it's available, it is, but making sure that, you know, the child is aware of all these other influences and they're not just going on one side of the spectrum as well. So we covered a lot in our topic. Whew! Thank you so much, my favorite uncle, for sharing your thoughts on each of these categories. That your input was definitely appreciated.
Thank you for having me. I always love coming here.
Absolutely. We love having you. So, Gems, it's time for your financial tips. Your financial gems for today are: determine if becoming a parent is the right choice for you. It may not be the right choice in this. Sooner you figure that out, the better off you'll be. Be financially prepared for the adoption and or sperm donor process, because it is definitely not cheap. Create a budget that includes what type of lifestyle you want to have as a parent, because that's going to look a little bit different than if you are when you are single, and maybe even if you're a single parent, or even if you're in a joint relationship. That budget and that lifestyle is going to look a little different. In the case of your untimely sickness or death, have a will prepared specifically to determine who will care for your child in your absence. This goes out to all the single parents sometimes, so we don't think about who may be the best person to care for our child. And it may not be a family member, not because they're not a nice person, maybe their age doesn't allow them to take care of that. So I urge you all to have a will and talk to that person in the case of your untimely passing and or sickness. And your final gem is find resources to further educate yourself on what it is and what is available to you and your child after adoption, and or how to tell your child about their donor. Because they're going to grow up and they're going to realize, hey, I'm missing a father if you go the donor route, or I'm missing another aspect, a mother, if you're going the egg donor route. So being able to adequately share those thoughts with your child so that they are comfortable in any type of surroundings, explaining, you know, their situation. And by explaining, I mean, if someone says, "Ooh, where are you getting your father for Father's Day?" them having a really good answer for that. So, Gems, it is our show custom to have every guest provide our gems with an inspirational quote. Favorite uncle, what is your personal inspirational quote you'd like to share with us today?
Well, my quote this month is from Robert A. Heinlein. Being a mother is an attitude, not a biological relation.
Love it. It is an attitude, not a biological relation. So this is my last segment for the month of May, and I want to give a huge, huge, huge warm hug from my heart to yours, to all the mothers who either have their own children, the ones who don't, the mothers who are motherly figures, your mentors, and to all the women who even don't want to have children of your own. Shout out for being you, and kudos for holding on to your identity and who you are at your core. All right, Gems, creating healthy financial habits is a lifelong commitment. Remember, without change, there be no butterflies. Changing habits, changing lives, and changing futures are all up to you. Till next time, Gems, take care. All the best.